Hello, viewers, and welcome to our first ever pre-game show. My name is Christopher Sword, and I'm founder and managing director of Viperio Esports. And joining me today, we have James Woodland. James, would you like to just quickly introduce yourself?
I am James Woodland, also known as Zero FTG, main data analyst and working mostly on the draft for Viperio.
Thanks, James. So yes, on this show today, we're just going to give you a quick rundown of tomorrow's series. So tomorrow we'll be playing London United in the UKEL at 9 p.m. GMT. We're just going to give you a quick rundown of the rosters on both teams, give you a little bit of insight, also talk about how Viperio has been doing in terms of its recent performance, how we've been prepping for the game, just give you guys at home a bit of insight about the things that go on off stream and behind the camera. So I don't know if you potentially want to pull up the London roster first, Connor, and get that on screen. So James, do you want to potentially just give us a bit of a rundown on the London roster?
We might as well start up in the top lane. Mostly been playing Ornn. That's what he was sort of seen playing a lot last year in summer. A lot of it on his solo queue record currently. When he's not on that, he seems to prefer more of the aggressive picks. Some Aatrox, some Shen, a little bit of spicy Volibear in there, which is a little odd, but we saw him play that last time in summer. It's something we've seen. It's on record. Mauer is a jungler. When it comes to jungle, there isn't too much variation right now. You've got Olaf at the top with probably Pantheon just due to the flexibility. Then you go to the Talia. He does quite like stuff like the Elise and Graves, which possibly dropping off. Nidalee's a little bit interesting with some of the new builds that are coming through. We'll see if that starts to affect this match or if it affects the league as a whole, like some people are thinking it might. If we go into the mid lane, we have a player with quite a lot of Yone games, which is for solo queue not too surprising. A lot of control mages at the moment. It's a rather good pick into them, so it's pretty safe to consistently pick in solo queue. Bot lane, we've got a player whose last 3 games were on Bard, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's the ADC as he's listed. And he's been playing a lot of Kai'Sa. It's pretty much just you trade the Kai'Sa for the Jhin at the moment, seems to be the thing. It's a pretty okay trade. It's a high damage carry. You can play it safe and it can be okay, or you can be a bit more aggressive with it. Then you come on to people like on their support, you have Heathen, who's going to be mostly probably looking to enable a very aggressive playstyle down in bot lane with picks such as the Leona and Alistair that we've seen contested a lot globally. And I wouldn't be surprised if he brought a Nautilus out either.
Fair, fair. And I mean, one of the unique things about London, James, is that, as I'm sure you're aware, is that this is their roster from last season. So that they're the only team that's kept all 5 players from season 3. So do you maybe want to give a bit of insight on like why that's beneficial for London and why that separates them from some other teams?
Over the preseason, there's going to be a lot of time where you're looking into new players. You're trying people out. You spend maybe 3 games with a guy who you end up deciding doesn't work or is below par for whatever reason, or something really concerning crops up in like the 3rd game, and then you can't use him. When you keep
Hmm.
the entirety of your roster together, it means that you can skip that phase. When it comes into preseason, especially this preseason with a lot of the items, you very quickly get to figure out what's going on. What's your best playstyle because you know the team the best and what will work for them essentially. And you know chemistry is going to stay strong because it's already been strong enough to get you through a summer split and to get you through the off season.
Hmm. But obviously, alongside those benefits, there's potential drawbacks to the team. So while other teams might have upgraded their roster, yeah, there's potential drawbacks that they might not have the firepower and ability to compete with some of these newer teams. Do you think the core of this roster does have what it takes to contend for those top spots?
I'm not quite sure about top spots, if I'm honest. I think this is a team with a lot of known quantities, and I think when you have seemingly possibly very strong rosters coming through, when you don't do much, you're giving when you don't do anything, you're giving everybody else the chance to catch up with you or to pass you even further. Because every other team is looking to upgrade. This is obviously something that they've had to weigh and think about, and they've decided that to keep the team together and to have known quality, is going to work, everybody likes each other. They've actively decided that that is something they value greatly.
Hmm. So now that we've discussed the opponent, Connor, if you could pull up our roster, Viperio's roster for tomorrow night. James, maybe you potentially give us a rundown of our lineup for tomorrow's game.
Okay, we'll start the same way. In for Rookie, and that's always a reason to watch him. An unknown quantity is something that's always going to be exciting to watch, especially if he's been someone that people seem to be putting, of course, tier lists aren't the be all end all, but people are putting middle of the pack with very little information from what I can tell. That is a very good sign that he is a player to watch, and he could exceed what people are expecting by a lot.
Hmm.
Now, if we go into the jungle, of course, we have retained Johnny from last season. I think at the moment he has, of course, he's known as a very strong Talia player for a long time, and Talia is very strong right now. That's, of course, not the only thing he's going to play. That would be stupid if we came into it thinking that.
Hmm.
Then, of course, the man himself, Killican in the mid lane, coming over from Denmark, someone who people seem to think is going to be quite strong. A man who is evidently, from his comments, very confident with the team and with his own play.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to see a lot of exciting things from him, and hopefully a lot of solo kills in the mid lane, a lot of exciting stuff for people to watch. Kaz retained from last time. People sort of know him as Lucian one trick. Lucian, of course, very aggressive pick. That's what Kaz likes to do. He enjoys killing you. He enjoys being aggressive. That's fun. That's very enjoyable. And then another person over from Denmark, starting to think that maybe the Danish scene is sort of losing some of these people. Has come over to join Kaz, rein him in a little bit when it's needed, but to also enable him when the opportunity's there, because there's no point having someone that's going to turn down free kills, free gold, free opportunities.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you've touched on all 5 players, but the one I want to highlight out is Killikin. Obviously, you said that he's feeling very confident, and we actually have a clip from a recent interview with Killikin. I don't know if we could get that on the stream right now. To the league, obviously, if with it starting next week, sort of within the regular season, do you think you could predict a record of maybe the 14 matches? What sort of win loss do you think you?
Okay, so I believe that right now we still have some issues. There are still we still make some mistakes in our gameplay, but I feel like the mistakes are getting fewer and fewer, and we're getting to the point where it's very team play oriented. It's about making the correct decisions and following up on the calls. We're getting to that already, so I feel like maybe we might, this is a very small chance, but we might suffer a loss based on those mistakes we make. But I think as soon as we've gotten past this first week and with practice and scrims and all this, I don't think we're gonna take a defeat after that. So I would say 13-1 if you really want if you want that, but of course we'll try for the 14-0.
No, I'll. So I mean, from that clip, obviously you can hear that Marcus is feeling very confident. He's gave a very ballsy prediction of 13-1. Do you want to maybe talk about sort of why confidence in the team's a good thing to have?
Confidence is only an issue when you say something like 13-1 if it raises the expectation of other players. If other players feel pressured to play to a level that they don't think they can play at.
Hmm.
Of course, you want someone to be confident. You want someone to be aiming to win every single game. If a player came onto here and said, "Oh yeah, I think we're gonna, go like 8-6,"
Hmm.
then you, as especially from the back end, you're like, it may sound realistic, but you're thinking, no, you should be aiming to win every game. Is making just an outright prediction like the best thing, but it shows your confidence, and you have to stay confident in your own play and your own team, or I think you start to see cracks appear where oh, maybe they don't go for this play, maybe they don't do this in draft. They start to play differently to what they've practiced in scrims.
Mm-hmm.
They start to, and from a coaching perspective, it's very annoying when, you know, you prac and you prac and you tell them and you see development, and then when they go out and play in actual tournament games, you watch it and you go, we covered this last week.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the confidence to do this, to commit to how you've been taught and have confidence in how you've been taught and how it's executed, then there's very little way you can properly execute it, because you're going to have doubts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, one of the things that you said to me off stream is like a 14-0 goal is something that every team should be striving for. You shouldn't want to settle for for anything less, like a 7-7. Like you should be aiming to get every single win that you can get. So it's obviously when you've got players like Killikin who are really confident, that's obviously really good to see. One thing I just want to quickly touch on is just the current state of the game. Would you say it favors the Viperio roster or the London roster? If you maybe talk about that.
I think currently it favors the Viperio roster. I feel like down in bot lane, you can get stuff like the Kaiser and the Jin, and then Lucian's still quite strong as a flex pick, so I think Kaz is pretty covered. Support is sort of evolving, but stuff like the Thresh is always going to be good. Of course, Haas very proficient on it. In the mid lane, you're seeing a lot of control mages, and then you have stuff like Yone and Aurelia on the side. If you go look at any of the, if you go speak to a lot of Danish people, they'll say, oh, Killikan's like a Oriana OTP. Why did you, OTP meaning one trick pony, why did you pick him up? Of course, if you just, they're going to look at the op.ggs and they're going to see a ton of Victor, and they're going to go, okay, this guy's a control mage player, but he's very good on it, and they're very good right now.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, well known for his Talia, very strong right now. I'd say about a third pick jungler, but a lot of the time you don't see the top two getting through the first phase of bans. And then top lane, you see a lot of stuff like is still evolving. I'd say it's a lot of gore drinkers at the moment, some fire, not many tanks. So I think top lane as well will see quite a large difference, because I think Victorio, I think he might want to get onto Comfort. He might want to get onto something like the Ornn, and I believe Info can punish him there.
Fair, fair. And something else that you touched on there is obviously at the end of the day, this is not just the team on the server. There's obviously supporting players around it and a good management structure. So you maybe want to touch on some of the things that you do directly with the team yourself, James.
Okay, so for stuff like UKL, it's quite hard to get information. If you want to go literally one level up to something like UKRC, you can go to places like Oracle's Elixir, and they just have the information for you. You can download it, you can make it look pretty, like I have on my Twitter, and that's relatively easy. When you come down to something like UKL, you don't have all the match history links, you don't have the information somewhere else, you have to make that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking to pull data from solo queue games, from previous competitive games, and see, okay, what's the patterns here? Has this team drafted in the same order a lot of the times, deciding on their side? So a lot of the times I'm giving more of a information-based approach to counter the players where they might just feel that a matchup is bad or something, or feel that something is bad. And I go, actually, if you put in some games, this is good. Yes, we can play this here. That's primarily where my work comes in.
Mm-hmm. And I like obviously as the analyst, a lot of your stuff is on the data and in the hard stats to back things up. And we have people like Alan and Dan who do a lot of the mental and that sort of things. And we also have another clip of Killikin just talking about how the coaching structure supported him. So if we could just run that on stream right now. You feel quite confident going into the league. Obviously, if with it starting next week, sort of within the regular season, do you think you could predict a record out of maybe the 14 matches? What sort of win loss do you think you?
Okay, so I believe that right now we still have some issues. There are still like we still make some mistakes in our gameplay, but I feel like the mistakes are getting fewer and fewer, and we're getting to the point where it's very team play oriented. It's about making the correct decisions and like following up on the calls. We're getting to that already, so I feel like maybe we might, like, this is a very small chance, but we might suffer a loss based on those mistakes we make. But I think like as soon as we've gotten past this first week and with practice and scrims and all this, I don't think we're gonna take a defeat after that. So I would say 13-1 if you really want if you want that, but of course we'll try for the 14-0.
No, I'll and I mean, from what Killikin's just said there, one of the really great things, and is that he at least feels that there's a very individualist approach. It's not as if we're just saying here's everything for everyone. We're obviously tailoring our approach to benefit each player individually. Do you think that's something that all teams need to be doing, James?
Different players will have different needs, of course. Different players will be in, especially at this level, they'll be in different situations. Some players will be able to not work, and they'll be able to put in 20 games a day, so you don't really have to worry about the mechanical side, and you have to worry more about a work-life balance, keeping their mental up, making sure they're exercising, eating, stuff like that. But then if you have the flip side, and some players, do have to work, don't get to commit the entirety of their time to this, it becomes, okay, when we do have them, do we have someone like Dan available to watch their games so that they make the most out of the time that they have? Because you don't just have an infinite amount of time in the day. You have to play your games, and you have to play them effectively, especially from the start of season, solo queue season, to the start of the competitive season. You need those games to be as productive as possible, especially when you have rookies like Infor on the team, and that it's a new experience to them and they don't know how to learn. But yeah, it's incredibly important to tailor, because each person's different. Each person has different requirements. You can't just throw everybody into the same system, because it won't work for all of them. And all of these players, of course, are not looking to, as much as we'd love to keep them in UKL, they want to go off to UKLC, NLC. They want to go places. You have to give each person the best chance they have to get to the best form they can.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems we've had a minor technical issue, and the last clip was the one from before. So I don't know if we can give it another attempt to see if we can get that on stream.
I tried out for a lot of different teams, but what got me to actually like set my sights on Viperio was Alan speaking to me about like how this team is all about improving. We're about improving individually, of course. Like there's also a team aspect, but getting us all to feel special, like getting us all to like, okay, so you're gonna work like this, and you're gonna work like this, and Dan has been doing individual sessions with people, making sure that like, okay, well, this is what you can improve on. Alan making sure that like, hey, keep playing. You gotta keep your improvement up, and like always supporting us through that. So that's why I'm very happy to be here, because I feel like I can improve as a player, and through that we're gonna smash the UK scene.
So I mean, like from that clip, at least you can understand that one of the things that made Marcus join Viperio over potentially other teams is that support structure that we have with James and the other members of the team. So it's obviously great to see that our players are responding well to that. Just in the nature of time, James, sort of, if we were to wrap this up, what were the sort of things that you think Viperio need to do tomorrow in the game in order to guarantee a win?
I think the preparation, especially for draft phase, has been incredibly good. Of course, it's my work, so I'm going to be biased. I think that's incredibly solid. I think tomorrow, Viperio just have to remember what we've taught them, remember what we've set them up with. As long as they follow the prep work that we've given them, I think they're solid. And I believe that they'll be able to do it, because individually, I think they're talented players.
Well, James, that's always great to hear. Well, in the nature of time, guys, I'd like to say thank you to everyone that has come in and watched. In future, these sort of post-match, well, pre-match streams will be just before the game, so that you can tune into these once the stream's over. Hop over to the UKEL Twitch and then watch the match. But be sure to make sure you tune into the game tomorrow at 9 p.m. with Viperio taking on London in our first game of the UKEL. James, it's been a pleasure to have you on. So thanks for coming on, and hopefully we'll have more successful streams like this in the future. So once again, viewers, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the Twitch chat tomorrow night at 9.